Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for Friday, the second day of August 2013. Taking a look at what's going on across the tropics. Not much to talk about today in the Atlantic Basin. The remnants of Dorian, designated officially as 91L, in the waters here off the Florida coast and the Bahamas. Take a look at a satellite animation of that area. Really not much to make of it. There is a fairly well-defined circulation. I think you can clearly see that rotating right in here. Weak in nature, pressures are high down across the region. Some shower and thunderstorm activity through here, but nothing tropical cyclone related. I don't think this will have much chance to develop. Neither does the Hurricane Center. That's why the probability is down to 30%. A little wider perspective of the area. This is the leftovers of Dorian here. This is a cold front that has worked its way off the southeast coast, so this will get entrained into that flow and whisked out to sea. If we broaden the perspective a little bit, I want to show you something else. This is pretty neat. You probably read about this a lot on Twitter and Facebook. The Saharan air layer, this big outbreak of Saharan dust and dry air moving across the Atlantic. Really easy to see the leading edge of that right here. This is so typical and so normal. It's the way the hurricane season goes. Once in a while you get these strong low-level blasts of wind that'll come off of the African continent because of very strong high pressures that build up over the Atlantic over here, and this is a very common thing. A lot has been made about how it suppresses hurricane activity. Well, absolutely. When you have all that dust and very dry air, you're not going to get tropical cyclone development. But this is a normal thing to see, especially in July, and it's really not until later in the month of August that things start to pick up. In fact, if we look at a climatology points of origin map for the first 10 days of August, we do have more of an increase in activity out here between Africa and the Lesser Antilles, with a pretty good clustering here pretty close to the islands, but it's really not until later in the month, the latter part of August, that we really start to see activity increasing. We are starting to ramp up climatology-wise right now, but we have a long way to go. It's usually not until after August 15th through about the 20th that things start to get busy, as normally we get these large areas of high pressure that'll spread out over the Atlantic. The Bermuda Azores high is really strong this time of year, and that helps to promote this little jet at the mid-levels of the atmosphere that comes screaming out over the Atlantic, pushing these large outbreaks of Saharan air with it, and that's what happens. And once that abates, then we start seeing more activity across the Atlantic. And a little bit of proof of that, this is the GFS right now, basically, and you can see that high pressure area, very strong right here. This is the west coast of Africa. Draw it with a different color. Here's the west coast of Africa, and here is the east coast of the United States, crudely drawn in. And there's the outline of this big old area of high pressure. Notice that the 1016 millibar line extends all the way down into the deep tropics. In other words, that's very high pressure for the deep tropics. The surface pressures are higher than they normally would be this time of year. So the trade winds are stronger, and you get that African dust and dry air out there. Plus, the center of the highs, this couplet here, are fairly far to the south. Now, this is the current map. If we go out a couple of weeks, based on the GFS forecast, it's interesting to see what it shows farther down the road. Now we see the high has weakened. It's a little bit further north as well over the Azores, and no longer do we see 1016 millibars dipping down into the deep tropics. Instead, it's down to about 1012, 1014 millibars, and you say, well, that's not much. But believe me, when you start to ease off on the pressure just a little bit, the difference between this high pressure over the northern Atlantic and the lowering of the pressures down here in the tropics, that gradient relaxes a little bit, and the tropical waves can converge better. They're able to more efficiently pile up the air, and they start to develop. And that usually doesn't happen until about August 15th and points onward. Only seasons like 2005, where it was an exceptionally busy year, and the pressures down across the deep tropics here were running well below normal to begin with, do we see a lot of activity in July? Same thing for 2008, where we saw a pretty strong Hurricane Bertha start out here in the Atlantic, and it turned out to sea before affecting anyone. Rarely, though, do you see hurricanes in July. And so the fact that we saw 2 named storms form out here in the deep tropics, they didn't become hurricanes, but they were tropical storms, and they formed from tropical waves, not cold fronts that were dying out or low pressure areas in the upper atmosphere that worked their way down to the surface. These were true signs, I believe, that the season will be very busy. And in fact, the forecast update from Colorado State University, Dr. Phil Klotzbach and Dr. William Gray at Colorado State here have issued their latest thoughts as of the second day of August here for the rest of the hurricane season. And you can see it right here. We continue to anticipate an above average 2013 season, although they did lower their numbers just a little bit. And I'm going to show you that on their chart here. It's interesting, they lowered them just a little bit. I'm going to make an analogy for you. The original forecast, I'll zoom in just a little bit here, back in, I think it was June, on the 3rd of June, they were thinking 18 named storms. They're still forecasting 18 named storms. They were looking at 9 hurricanes forming back 2 months ago. Now they've lowered it to 8 total for the season. And they were thinking 4 of those hurricanes would become major hurricanes back in June. Now they're reducing it to 3. So I present this thought to you. If you knew that you were going to be in a head-on collision car accident, and the original estimation of how fast your speed would be was 84 miles per hour, let's just say you were really speeding, and then, oh, wait a minute, actually it's going to be 76 miles per hour. It's still going to be really bad. Now, I'm not saying that anybody knows that these hurricanes that are going to form, we still have 8 to go, and 3 majors are going to hit the United States or the islands or anything, or Mexico, but we still have, if you look at it from that perspective, a lot of hurricane season to go, and it could be very nasty. The fact that they've reduced the numbers from 9 hurricanes down to 8 and 4 major hurricanes down to 3 should make little difference in your preparedness thought process. You want to be prepared and be ready in case one of those were to head your way, and now is the time to do it when things are nice and quiet. In the tropical Pacific, not much to show, so I'm not going to worry about it. Hurricane Gil, small, moving west. It'll eventually die out and not pose any impact to land, and that most likely includes Hawaii. No worries there. All right, so that's a look at the tropics. Things are going to stay quiet for now, but you can bet within the next 2 to 3 weeks that will change, and we'll want to make sure that you are on top of the very latest information. You've got a powerful set of apps to help you with that for sure. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. That's my website. Always an honor and a privilege to produce these videos for Hurricane Pro and HD. Have a good weekend ahead. I'll be back over the weekend with more updates then.